This is the Week 2 lecture Part 2, and I will be covering the 4 phases of emergency management. We're moving on to the phases of emergency management. There are 4, and you must know them. They are mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Now, for the sake of full disclosure, simply Googling phases of emergency management may result in a number of different answers. Even within the government, you can see that many different models have been published. However, the 4 that I'm giving you is the most commonly accepted and understood phases. Be aware that there are others, such as you can see here under the Transportation Annex. That's a FEMA document. The National Response Framework has, 5 there, and then the emergency I don't know what the FHWA security is, and then National Transportation Recovery Framework. So there are all these different ones that are out there in the World Wide Web, but the ones you need to know are the 4 that I am presenting to you. The first being mitigation. And the ultimate goal of mitigation is to reduce or eliminate risks, and ideally to even minimize the consequences of an incident once it has taken place. So mitigation refers to activities that reduce or even eliminate risk to people or property. Some disasters are avoided entirely if appropriate mitigation techniques are used. It also refers to the minimization of the consequences of an incident. Many emergencies certainly are not avoidable, or even the effects, but often we realize that we could have taken measures to reduce the negative effect of the crisis. Good mitigation strategies identify those measures before the emergency occurs. What you're looking at right here is a tornado that took place in Newcastle, Oklahoma in 1999. The tornado produced winds that exceeded 250 miles per hour. There was an estimated $1.5 billion in damage done with 1,700 homes, 85 businesses, 3 churches, and 2 schools being destroyed or damaged. Worst of all is that 85 people were killed during this natural disaster. Sadly, lives may have been saved if there had been an adequate tornado shelter available. What resulted was a cooperative effort of the city and state governments along with FEMA to create such a tornado shelter. The lot was carefully chosen that was near the police department and a school. An architect was selected that could conform to FEMA standards, and the shelter was erected. It was designed to have a safe method of exit, including doors with triple hinges that swung inward instead of outward. Signage was also added that is able to clearly direct people to the shelter during severe weather. During subsequent drills, the community was able to get 850 students and other citizens inside the shelter in just 5 minutes. This is an example of the type of project that an emergency manager is involved in, from securing funding to coordinating with FEMA to ensuring that successful completion of the enterprise. In this case, it is an actual structure that is being designed to mitigate the consequences of an emergency. The next one is preparedness, and I will tell you there is definitely some overlap between mitigation and preparedness. And you'll see here, preparedness includes a range of tasks and activities to build, sustain, and improve the operational capability to prevent, protect against, respond to, recover from crises. Continuous process among all levels of government, private and non-governmental organizations, and identifies threats, determine vulnerabilities, identify needed resources. So the question preparedness asks is, when the next one happens, are we in a position to address it? Are we ready? Do we have what we need? Preparedness would include a review of your emergency operations plan, or predetermining evacuation routes and stocking up on food and water. Preparedness includes making preparations that would assist the actual responders, whether it's making sure that you have the necessary facilities ready for action or facilitating all the necessary training. As its name indicates, preparedness means that these measures are thoughtfully planned and executed before an emergency takes place. Third of the four is response. It encompasses the activities that address short-term direct effects of an incident, and this is when you actually execute the emergency operations plan, and is designed to limit loss of life and other negative consequences. So this occurs when the emergency is either imminent or shortly after it has begun. And of course, during response, this is where all of your preparedness plans are put to work. Your emergency operations plan comes to life, and all the parts and pieces of your plan, the emergency manager's plan that is, gets put to the test. And training exercises become actual life-saving tasks to be accomplished. Lastly of the four is recovery. Of course, the goal of recovery is to return the community back to its normal operations. And here I have listed a number of recovery basics. These are areas that are almost always needing attention during the recovery phase. They are not listed in any particular order, in some order of priority, but they are the area that recovery effort frequently focuses on. And the emergency manager is also integral in identifying the financial sources that will probably help make this effort a reality. As part of the National Disaster Recovery Framework, FEMA has invested millions of dollars in teams of people across the nation to assist with long-term recovery. This graphic illustrates the proportion of events that have been supported by the long-term community recovery activities from 2004 to 2011. It's pretty amazing to see how flooding it all on its own has such a significant impact. And that brings us to the conclusion of our lecture.